we're going to talk about marriage and manipulation. Now, let's be honest. Manipulation is typically a negative thing, right? If you want to manipulate someone off a bridge and not kill themselves, that's a good thing. You're trying to figure out a way to get them to do what you want them to do for greater good. That's a positive way, I guess you can think of manipulation. But in general, manipulating someone is not a healthy, mature thing. People who live a life of goodwill, respect, humility, empathy, what we call the four protectors of enough, healthy, mature people don't manipulate others. Why? Because manipulating another person is to basically treat them as an object. It is basically get them to do what you want so you can get what you want out of them. All right. That's why manipulation is so unhealthy. It lowers another person to an object, to something to be used by you or anyone to get what they want from them. In so doing, the greater damage is when you manipulate people, you disrespect their dignity as a person. You disrespect their dignity as a person. See, everyone is a human, and every person is worthy of being treated with goodwill and respect. That's dignity. All humans have dignity, inherent the fact that they exist. And so we always want to make sure that when we treat people in our relationships, we always treat them with goodwill and respect. Why? Because that's a person who's worthy of dignity. To manipulate someone it's a violation of their dignity. It basically says you're not good enough. You're not equal on par with me. You're less than me. So I've got to do things. I'm going to use you for my gain and my benefit. And that's why manipulation overall is rather destructive. So whenever we manipulate someone in marriage, to me, that's a clear violation of dignity. One of the safest places we're supposed to be able to have in any relationship is the marital bond. It's supposed to be a safe place. I can take my mask off and let you see the real me, knowing that when I take that level of vulnerability, when I move to that level of vulnerability, you're not going to judge me. You're not going to insult me. You're going to love me. You're going to accept me as I am. You don't have to agree with things that I say. You don't have to agree with things that I do. But in the marital bond, the marital bond is such that we get to a place that I feel so safe and secure with you. I can, in a sense, be naked in my soul, that level of vulnerability. When you manipulate your partner, you're not just saying that you're an object to be used. You're also saying, I'm not a safe person for you, and that you can't trust this relationship to be a safe relationship, and that the value of this marriage is based on what you do for me and how you do it, i.e., that's why I manipulate you to get what I want my way from you. But in so doing, you just take a relationship that is a relationship of equals emotionally, equals in all aspects of life, equals in terms of humans who love each other with a deep level of intimacy and connection. And it puts you as an object and makes me better than you. This is why manipulation in marriage is so much more hurtful, because there's a level of expectation of safety that is in a marriage. Marriage is, you expect it to be a very safe place, a comforting place, a warm place. And sadly, whenever we manipulate in marriage to try and get our spouses to do what we want, it no longer becomes a safe place. And that really is the greatest violation. It's a violation of safety. What is manipulation? It's anything you do to basically get what you want from your partner your way. It could be as subtle as something as, hey, my brother called and I was just wondering, do you have any plans for tonight? Well, no. Oh, okay. Since you don't have any plans and he's in town, I think I'm going to go hang out with him. Oh, remember we talked about doing such and such tonight? Yeah, I know, but you just said, see, and so I'm going based off what you just said. I'm manipulating to get what I want. You know what is a healthy manipulation? Like this. If you don't do this, then I'm leaving you. Make a decision. Well, that's manipulative, but at least you know. I mean, it's upfront, in your face. You don't have to guess. You don't have to feel it. You have to wonder. Some manipulation is subtle. It's just subtle. You're not sure if you're being manipulated or not, but something inside of you emotionally starts to churn in your brain like, you know what I mean? You've been there before. And when that begins to happen on an ongoing basis, you're harming the relationship, you're harming your partner. So I got some thoughts for you. If you're being manipulated in your relationship, if you're being manipulated in your marriage, then what are some things that you might feel? Let's kind of cover those. Number one, you're probably going to feel some guilt at times. So one of the things that people do when they manipulate you is they want you to feel guilty. They want you to feel bad. They want you to feel that you're being selfish, or that why would you even think that, or why would you want that? Look at me and look at all I've done, right? That old martyr syndrome. I've done all this. How dare you want to do that, or all I've done? It's manipulation. It's to make you feel guilty. And the longer that you get manipulated so you feel guilty, you become resentful and angry over time, because a person is not respecting who you are. They're not respecting your perspective. They're not respecting your views and understandings of what's taking place in life. And so one of the things that people feel when they're being manipulated in marriage is guilt. That sense that you're doing something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong. But I feel like I'm doing something wrong. It's being manipulated. You're being manipulated into feeling guilty. One of the ways you get around the idea of feeling guilty is first ask a question. Though I may be feeling guilty right now in this moment because whatever you're saying or doing to me, the first question I need to ask myself is step back from the feelings of guilt and ask myself, have I done anything that has violated a law or moral code? Because let's be honest, you can be guilty of something and not feel guilty. There are people who have murdered, but they feel no guilt about the murder. You get the idea? And so whenever you start to feel guilty, ask yourself, have you violated a moral code or a law? Then you know for a fact you're probably not guilty of anything. And then ask yourself this question: what am I feeling guilty about? This guilt feeling that I'm having in this moment, what is it really about? You might find out it's just because that person is manipulating you to get what they want, so you feel bad about something, so you give them what they want. And then you begin to realize, wait a minute, I haven't done anything wrong. Of course not. You're just being manipulated. And the result of manipulation is for you to feel guilty. What purpose? So you give them what they want. Second thing that you will notice when people manipulate you in marriage is gaslighting. Gaslighting, making you feel like you're the crazy one. It's one of the things that manipulation does as well. It makes you, the one being manipulated, feel like you're the crazy one. You start to question your own thinking. You start to question your own feelings. You start to question your own reality. You start to question, am I the nutcase? How come I don't see these things in myself? Because that's what manipulation does. It'll also gaslight you. You see, again, the way you have to deal with this one is you have to be able to own your own mind, own your own soul, step back from what's taking place out here in life, and ask yourself some logical, rational questions. Have I done anything wrong? Am I really crazy? Maybe this is just their perspective. Maybe they're trying to impose a perspective to make me look like I'm the nutcase. Gaslighting is something that a lot of people like to do as a form of manipulation. Another thing that you'll feel is you feel isolated. The more manipulated you feel, the more manipulated you are, all right, that you allow people to manipulate you, the more you're going to isolate yourself, all right? And one thing that manipulators like to do in marriage is when they manipulate marriage, they're going to isolate you from them. It's like a form of punishment, all right? You didn't give me what I want, so I'm not going to talk to you. Guilty. Early years of marriage, I wasn't a healthy, mature adult, so I didn't know how to deal with conflict. So I would manipulate with silence. I would manipulate with the stonewalling. Just get quiet and sulk because the well wouldn't give me what I want. It was very immature, by the way. Try not to do that anymore. But in my early years of marriage, and I've been married 37 years, all right? But in the early years of marriage, first 8 or 9, I was manipulative. That's what I would do. I would isolate myself and punish her with silence, right? And sulk. Why? To make her feel guilty so she'd hold my hand or whatever it is I wanted. I'm not proud of it, but I'm here to tell you it's one of the things that I did. So you isolate your spouse with punishment. Give them the silent treatment. It's called stonewalling. Stonewalling, by the way, is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse mentioned by John Gottman in his research. The 4 horsemen, if those 4 things show up in your marriage, he can predict with 93% accuracy divorce. Stonewalling is one of them. Just an isolation, stony silence. Right? Another way that people manipulate is by making you feel powerless, that you don't have any other choice but what they say, that you have no choices, you have no power, you have not the ability to speak up for yourself. You don't get the ability to say what you want and believe what you want or think what you want or even feel what you want. It must be a certain way. One of the things early in our marriage was around faith. My wife grew up in a religious system that says if you want to be a good Christian husband, you got to be A, B, C, D, E. Well, guess what? Rick didn't fit A, B, C, D, E. And because of that, she would manipulate. She would judge me and criticize me. And I always felt powerless. I always felt helpless to ever be good enough. And then I started feeling guilty that I couldn't be like those guys over there that she had looked up to. Those are the good men. Those are the Christian men. Why can't I be like them? Fortunately, I was mature enough at some point early in the marriage where I realized, you know what? It's because I'm not them. And I got to be me. I've never walked away from my faith, folks. But I wasn't going to be branded by that small-minded legalistic system that she was raised in. But early on, I felt guilty that I wasn't those things. And so I'd try and conform early on out of guilt. The more I tried to conform, I lost me. And the more resentful I became. You see, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live that way. Another thing that manipulation does is it makes you feel inferior. When you're being manipulated, you might feel inferior. That again, I kind of make reference to this. Your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas actually have no value, they have no merit, they don't matter. And another thing is when you're being manipulated, you're going to feel blamed. Your fault. It's all your fault. Why did you do this? What do I need to do different to become a better person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.